So today we will be discussing the idea or the theory of the 5 elements. Mike's going to give us a condensed version of what it actually is. Go for it, Mike.
Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Thanks. In ancient China, they had this theory, or hypothesis, if you like, that there were 3 levels that created our environment, our reality: heaven, man, and earth. But earth was a very complex system. So in order to find a way to explain it more simply and in a way it could be used in a positive way, they talked about the 10,000 things under heaven, and they invented what is known today as the perturbation theory. So the 5 elements is a perturbation theory, which is a simple way of explaining a very complex environment or situation. So they came up with the 5 elements: fire, water, wood, metal, and earth.
Mike, some systems use only 4 elements. Is that a similar system to the 5 elements, or is that something completely different?
Some have 4, some have 6. It's just, this goes beyond Chinese culture. This goes back thousands of years to the time of the Wu Xing, which is like about 8,000 years ago, according to my master. In those days, they lived according to nature, but they understood the way that nature worked. So they had various theories. So, like you said, the Buddhists had 4, the other guys had 5, 6. It depends.
And the reason we use the 5 elements is because it is quite neatly explained. This very complex idea is neatly explained with these 5.
It is. It's relatively simple to understand. Also, a theory is not necessarily a fact. It's not necessarily hardwired. The theories work under certain conditions, but if you change the conditions, the theory may not work.
When we say change the conditions,
yeah,
especially if you're talking in our environment, what kind of...
They usually work under certain conditions.
Oh, a theory.
The conditions change.
Okay.
So basically everything is a condition. Everything, all the phenomena, all the changes that happen, you have conditions changing. A simple example is like, if you look at the weather, you've got hot, and you've got wet, and you've got dry, and you've got cold. But these are conditions that we experience on a daily basis, and they just keep changing all the time. But that causes other things to happen, like heat is expansion, cold is contraction, wet is wet, dry is dry, no water. That affects the people or animals or things living in that habitat. So all these things work together.
But there are conditions, environmental conditions, which we can also find within the human body.
Exactly.
Again, so it's just a condition.
It is, because we are part of the environment.
Yeah.
Those conditions are in all living things.
And how does this relate or pertain to the 5 element theory?
Okay. It comes back to Taoism and Buddhism. The 2 main things that we're looking at here are fire and water. Fire, in the context of the ancients, is actually information. So we have heaven, man, and earth. So we have an interaction of heaven and earth. And in the middle is us, man, woman, humans, whatever. So the fire is actually information for the creation of energy, because everything in our world is energy bonding. Water carries information. So in this context, like in the human body, blood carries information for function. So that information comes to the body and is utilized, is transmitted or transported through the body within the blood, which goes to every single cell in the body, takes nutrition, cleans the cells, and gives information for function. They've actually shown that body cells all have the same, they're all tuned in to the same wavelength. This is simplifying everything, which makes up the whole body, billions of cells. So they're all working on a certain wavelength. So we have this wavelength getting information from heaven to our environment, and then it gets feedback again. So they sometimes call it the dragon and the tiger fighting. The dragon is heaven, the tiger is earth. They're not actually fighting, they're communicating all the time and then adjusting according to the environment. So what they did with the 5 elements is, we have earth. So earth is this dimension, but not just the planet Earth, it's the solar system and the universe. So it's this dimension that we live in.
So when it was created or formed or hypothesized, they weren't talking about Earth as in our world. They were actually incorporating everything in the dimension, because everything follows the same system.
Yes. So they called it T-I-T, Earth, but it means this dimension.
Everything.
So when we talk about heaven, we're talking about another dimension outside of ours.
Okay.
And this is not just ancient speculation or mumbo jumbo. I mean, if you look at quantum physics, they say the same thing. They speculate 9 dimensions, 10, 11, up to 28 dimensions.
Okay, so if I had to put something in here, so you say heaven then is just a different dimension, and you say they say there's 9, 11, 28 dimensions or whatever it is. Which dimension it is heaven in?
All of them are there.
Okay.
Because it's beyond. Okay, if you look at our dimension as a massive sphere. Right,
Yeah.
Right. So we live in 4 dimensions. We've got 3 dimensions which give us height, length, and depth. And then we have space and time, which gives us events and sequences, so we can measure things. Right. So that's basically our dimension.
Yeah.
Right. But there are other dimensions that we're not aware of. So again, in quantum physics, they talk about this a lot as well.
Yeah.
So things are not, our reality, there's more than just what we perceive as our reality. But we're kind of locked into a very narrow view. So the ancients understood this through the practice of meditation and Tai Chi and what have you. And it wasn't just in China, it was all over the world. So what the Chinese did, they decided, we're going to have 5. And it's going to be fire, water, metal, and earth.
Okay.
But
With
2
earth
main,
in the middle.
Yeah. So fire and water in harmony for earth, for all information in earth. And then metal and wood are just processes.
Processes for what
For
now?
function.
Okay, all function.
For function.
Yeah, but all function.
Yeah. So the water is blood. So is fire, information. Water is blood for and body liquids. And the other thing with water is it's like water spreads all over the place. But it has more connotations, but it gets more complex. Metal means pure or gold. So and wood means to grow. So you have fire bringing information, which is utilized by the gold or the purity, which creates new types of energy, which then goes back to the water, which then distributes that around the body for function. And then the actual function is the wood, which is like a tree growing. And you
giving
have
life to everything.
Yes.
Okay.
But the most important of this 5 elements thing is the 4 elements, fire, water, metal and wood, have earth in the center. They are for all the functions of earth, which is the human body or an animal body. And they need to be in equilibrium all the time. So in Chinese medical philosophy, one of them goes out of whack. It causes a problem with the rest. So the idea is that those elements must be in balance all the time for the interaction of heaven and earth. But the other thing, without earth, they don't need to be there.
Because the dimension will cease to exist or just not be there.
Right.
Okay.
So they're just a product of this dimension. So it's just what we call a perturbation theory. You have a very complex situation, environment, the so-called 10,000 things under heaven or created by heaven, our world, but very difficult to explain how everything works. But by using this theory, it's a perturbation theory. It's a simple way of explaining all actions. So actually, if you look around you, the world seems to be very complex. But it's mostly just these 5 elements at different levels of the lifetime or action. So it's not really that complex.
Okay, but so it's not really that complex, but has it been oversimplified? I mean, people are starting to take it quite literal, like fire being actual fire, water being water that you drink, or the sea, or rivers,
Yes.
wood being a plank of wood.
That's why people, you have people who decide that they're going to see if this works, and they take it literally, and then they say it doesn't work, because they don't understand the original ancient thinking behind it.
And not having the idea that metal and wood are just actual functions in the whole system. It has gone very far with the literal meaning, where, you know, wood is obviously related to the liver, the gallbladder, green, anger. So people are holding on to these little things and saying that's the absolute. Can it, I mean, if you're looking at the function of the element, can it be taken in that literal sense, or is it have people misunderstood the idea?
They have misunderstood the whole thing, because they've taken it literally. So, for instance, if we take metal is eigenstate. It means before anything has, it means pure, before anything is contaminated. And then the fire brings information for those uncontaminated elements to start combining to form something. Like, I don't know, a fish, a crocodile, a human being, anything, right? But if we want to complicate things, we come back to the whole thing about chi as well. So people talk about chi energy, but chi is not energy. Chi is information for the function of energy through a process called Jing. So the fire through chi and Jing and the eigenstate in metal then starts to create something, and then the process goes around through the water and the wood, and it creates the environment and life. It's kind of simple to look at it, but probably needs to be explained in more depth to make it, to avoid confusion. There's more, right? So the 5 elements doesn't just apply to the planet we live on. It applies to the solar system. So that those 5 conditions are also in the solar system, and then in the larger universe. So you have these conditions changing all the time. It's not just static.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Anything else you'd like to add?
Well, actually, really, it is static because there's no time. So everything just goes, and that's it.
Yes, but in our environment, we experience the change.
Consciousness gives us sensation.
Yes.
That's what we call life.
Sensation. Okay. Right.
That's our life experience, our sensations. So when you're doing meditation, you take away all the sensations, everything goes away.
All the necessary functions.
Well, everything just goes away when your sensations and emotions drop to a low level, and suddenly, there's nothing there.
So what would happen?
What we see as life is not really real.
Yeah. So then the 5 elements, would that be almost like the spreading out to be able to explain this complex system in this dimension? But in meditation, when you say you sit and become still, it all collapses into one, into itself.
Yes, into one.
Okay.
It goes back to being a singularity.
Yeah.
So when they use 5 elements in Xingyi, for instance, the purpose of Xingyi is to create a singularity, which then issues energy like a big bang. That's the whole purpose. With Xingyi, the purpose is just, and Dr. Lin told me this one day, it's just simple destruction. Just one move and then the person's dead. Because you go to this. He didn't explain it to me like that. I mean, it's taken me years and years to figure it out. But you issue energy through a singularity, many big bang in your body, and then it goes into your opponent, and he just looks like he had a heart attack and died, because it destroys his energy function, his energy body.
Charming.
Yeah.
So it is a very basic way to explain a very complex thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Quite misunderstood and misinterpreted. But thank you. Thank you for...
Well, sorry, just to add, the 5 elements is the basis of Chinese medicine. When everything is in equilibrium, there's health. When it goes out of equilibrium, there's illness. So, it's the basic way of viewing health, our connection with the beyond or heaven. If that's maintained in a strong, cohesive way, you have health. When it starts to fail, then you become sick. So that's what Chinese medicine is based in, that idea.
Maintaining the health of these functions and okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks everyone for joining. I'll see you again next time. Now you can start your swearing and your ranting and talking off camera to Arnold. In the meantime, I'm melting.